Happy, beautiful day. It is Pete Cohen, and welcome to the Pete Cohen podcast. This is a very special Pete Cohen podcast edition. It's called How to Create the Life That You Want. And you're actually going to hear a special training that I did recently on how to create the life that you want. The way I look at life right now is, well, I've always looked at it this way, but just even more so. You and I, we have a lot in common. We are in the story-making business. We're in the legacy-making business. You could say we're in the movies, where you are the writer, the director, the producer, you're the actor. You can actually choose your supporting cast. And I really encourage you to listen very closely to this podcast. Take some notes as we really start to rethink, reposition, reshape, reevaluate who we are and where we're going in our lives. There's no question recent events is making many of us look at life with a fresh pair of eyes. And that's when I think we're really open to change. So after the music, we're going to go straight into a training. It's almost an hour long. Right at the end, you'll hear I take some questions and immerse yourself in this content. Not long ago, when we started this series of podcasts, episodes 4, 5, 6, 7, 4 podcasts on also how to be in the movie industry. So if you want to go a little bit deeper, you can, if you really want to put on an Oscar-winning performance of your life and make what's going on in the world one of the best things that ever happens as you develop a compelling script and vision of where your life is going to go. It's absolutely my privilege to serve you, and make sure you join our free private Facebook page for some additional coaching and support in helping you create the life that you want. Quite simply, my friends, I am building a global revolution to liberate 10 million people to go from a life of chance to an extraordinary life by design. Enjoy the podcast. Let's go to work. The big question is, how are some people in the world today creating the results they want with their health, wealth, and happiness? What exactly are these people doing? This podcast will give you the answers and inspire you to live the life that you want today. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for this very special presentation. I'd really encourage you, if it's possible, for you to take some notes, because we're going to go into a deep dive into one of the most important subjects that you could ever talk to anyone about. And the subject is you and your life. One of the things I'm truly fascinated by is what people are truly capable of. And right now, some of you know that I have set myself out on an epic adventure. I'm building a global revolution to liberate 10 million people to go from living a life by chance to an extraordinary life by design. And fundamentally, I personally believe this: 2 things. Your future is unwritten, and you have the power to change. Now, whether you do anything about that or not is entirely up to you. When we look at human beings, we can look at them from many different ways. And one of the things I learned from my coach years ago, I had a coach for 16 years, and I learned so much from him. And one of the things he said, people are always really into what's right and what's wrong, what's good, what's bad, what's up, what's down, what's good, what's evil. And a much better way of looking at the world is not 2-dimensional, it's 7-dimensional. And what he meant by that is our ability to look at things from the front, from the back, from left to right, to up, to down, and you. And to see things from a more holistic point of view. Because it's only when we can step back and look at things with a fresh pair of eyes that we have the power to change. So do you believe me that your future's unwritten and you have the power to change? Of course you do. We all believe it. It's just what we do with it. And I don't think there's ever been a more important time for you and I to stop and look at life with a fresh pair of eyes and reevaluate, reshape, rethink, reposition ourselves. The whole world has changed over the last few weeks and the few weeks to come, and maybe the months to come and the years to come. The world is going to be very, very different because of this virus that has become a pandemic. There's probably never been a time across the whole world where there's been so many people who are conscious of something that could get them, conscious of something that could change their world. And for many of them, it already has changed their world. Because you and I have something in common. You and I, we are in the story making business. We are in the legacy making business. And right here, right now, the legacy of your life is unfolding. And I really want you to think about, where do you want your life to go from here? Because yes, we are in the movie making business. We're in the story making business. We're in the legacy making business. And someone like me who is obsessed, totally obsessed with human beings and how do human beings get results? How do human beings close the gap between who they are and who they're capable of being? Now, in most cases, what it takes for us to shift and make that move is a crisis, is a trauma, is a diagnosis, is someone else dying that often wakes us up and something inside us comes alive that was often dormant. And the first thing I want to look at with you is to look at, what are we made up of? Well, we're all made up of the same thing, and we're all made up with the ability to do things. And if you look at your life, there's probably many things that you've done. And if you look at the lives of your parents and your parents' parents, there were things that they did that made you have the life that you have. But the thing I want you to really think about is, where is your life going? Because if we really look at the secret source of life, the magic that you and I have, it's that activation energy. It's the spirit within all of us that when called to something, that we can do great things. And there's no question that what is happening in the world right now is going to be very challenging. Not long ago, I had a friend who was diagnosed with quite a severe form of cancer, and he knows about my history with people I know and people close to me, the fact that my wife was given 18 months to live nearly 9 years ago. And he asked me for advice. He called me up and said, hey, what do you think about this? And I just said to him, I said, you know what? You think it's going to be difficult? I reckon it's going to be 10 times more difficult than you think. Because if we know that something is going to be difficult, when it is difficult, we don't give up. And science shows this, where you have two groups of people who want to lose weight, one group thinking it's going to be easy, one group thinking it's going to be hard. When the group who thought it was going to be easy came across some difficulties, came across some unforeseen circumstances, came across some obstacles, they gave up. But the ones who thought it was going to be difficult, when they came across that challenge, that frustration, that self-doubt, they knew that was going to happen because they knew that the obstacle is the way. And this is what I want all of us to wake up to. If you want to be in the movie of your life, which you are right now, you are in the story of your life. And if we're not careful, all we're going to do is repeat what we did yesterday. You might have heard that if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. And history has an incredible pattern of repeating itself unless we change. Now, there have been many wise people that have lived on earth. And one of them, you might have heard of him, his name was Mahatma Gandhi. And he said, we should be the change that we wish to see. And most of us don't wish anything in the future. We just wish we weren't where we are now. And my challenge to every single one of you that is watching this is to stop for a moment, rethink, reposition, reshape, re-question. What do you want the legacy of your life to be? Dr. Stephen Covey, in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the second habit is to begin with the end in mind. You're in the legacy making business right now, and most of us don't stop to think about the consequences of our actions. I remember many years ago reading about studies of people that were put in what's called fMRI machines. They'd put them in these machines and they would ask them a series of questions. One of the questions was, think of yourself. And then they'd see a part of the brain that lit up. Then they asked the question, think of a stranger. And they'd see another part of the brain light up. And then they'd ask the question, think of yourself in the future. When people were asked to think of themselves in the future, what part of the brain do you think lit up? No surprise that the part of the brain that lit up was the part that was associated with the stranger. What does that mean? It means we do not identify with the person in the future. All we identify with is us now, and what our identity is our past. What we carry with us is our past. And when we look at the story of your life and my life, we have a lot of things in common. Your life was probably quite traumatic. You grew up in a world where you had to fit in. You were programmed to fit in. You were programmed to be like everyone else. You were programmed to be accepted. And what did that do? Well, that gave you a whole load of insecurities and doubts as you started to question who you were. And then on top of that, maybe you had some traumatic experiences in your life that compounded that. For me as a child, I desperately thought I wasn't good enough and wanted the world to give me attention. I wanted the world to tell me that I was good enough. And I did whatever I needed to do to fit in, to smoke, to drink, to do what the others were doing. And it was Mark Twain that said, when you find yourself erring on the side of the majority, step back, look at what you're doing and reconsider. And I really believe that this is the pivotal point in all of our lives. You will probably never come across a time like this where the world is almost forcing upon you, forcing you to change, forcing you to look at life with a fresh pair of eyes. We know that people don't change when we tell them what to do. We know that people change when their perspective changes. And I want to give you a different perspective of this right here, right now. We have a number of things in common. We're in the story-making business. Your story is probably similar to my story. We've had challenges. We've been called to adventures. We've had love stories. We've had horror stories. But we're still here to tell the tale. The question I want to ask you is, what do you want the next chapter of your life to be? Do you want history to repeat itself? Because if you do, you're not going to have to do very much. You might have seen the film with Bill Murray called Groundhog Day, where he finds himself in a world where he's constantly repeating the same day every single day, desperately trying to make that change. But things only change when he changes. And that might sound like a cliche to you, but the world is asking you to change like never before. So in the book by Dr. Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, not the 7 habits of people, highly effective people. That second habit is begin with the end in mind. Now, the other thing that I know that you and I have in common is you have an imagination. And right now, you can imagine being at your own funeral and taking a moment to imagine all of the people that are there and asking yourself the question, what do you want those people to be saying about you? I heard not long ago that hell is coming to the end of your life and meeting the person you could have become. Meeting the person that you could have become. There is a gap between where we are and where we're going. There is a gap between being born and dying. What we do in that space
is up to us. And one of the reasons we see so many people in the world today struggling, feeling frustration, doubt, envy, anger, depression, is they know that they're not being who they're capable of being. Your life is a story, and you love stories. What was your favorite story as a child? Was it The Wizard of Oz? Did Dorothy want to go down the yellow brick road? Or did she find herself in unforeseen circumstances where she really had no alternative to go down the yellow brick road and get the support of the people around her as she went on this epic adventure? What about Rocky? Rocky 1, Rocky 2, Rocky 3, Rocky 4, Rocky Balboa. I think I've still got something left in the basement. Do you still have something left in the basement? Creed 1, Creed 2, it's the same story. Alice in Wonderland, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. Why do we love these films? Ask yourself the question, what is it about those films that makes us want to watch? These films transport us from the world that we're in and take us into a fantasy world. But a world that we resonate, a world where we feel an identification with the characters. It's called the hero's journey. And every single film has the hero's journey mapped out. And this is what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to come on the hero's journey with me. I'm calling you out. Just like Frodo was called in Lord of the Rings, but he didn't want to go. He wanted to stay where he was. He needed a coach. He needed a mentor, someone to pull out their hand and give them the confidence that they could step into the unknown. And even in the film, when they leave the place they were from and they come to the end of the field, they come to an edge of a field, one of the characters says to the other, "We've never been past this step." They step to a place they've never been before. And just imagine if they hadn't done that and they'd gone home. Would you have watched the film? No. You watch the film because the characters go to a place they've not gone before. Why do we not do that? Well, in most cases, we are scared and frightened to follow our bliss. We are scared to do what others don't do. We are scared to walk our own path. You see, in your life, when you grew up, just like me, we had to conform. We had to be like everybody else. I don't know about you, but I learned to smoke. Did I enjoy it? No, of course I didn't do it. Of course I didn't enjoy it. I did it because I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be like everybody else until I got to an age where I started to question, I don't like being like everyone else. I want to be myself. And when we be ourselves, we choose our own path. We don't walk someone else's path. Now, there have probably been many times where you've watched a film and you've seen this hero going on this epic adventure. They're called to an adventure. They don't want to go. They get a coach or a mentor and they go to a place they've not gone before. Maybe you've seen Star Trek. One of the famous lines in Star Trek, "To boldly go where no man has gone before." If they kept going to the same place every single time, would you watch it? You watch it because it's an adventure. You watch it because you don't always know what's going to happen. You see the characters taking on something that in many cases almost defeats them. But then they go into training. They learn skills they didn't even know that they had. They then face the adversity that they faced before, and this time they conquer. And then they go back stronger than they were before, and they pass on what they learned and give it to other people. It's called the hero's journey. We love it. We're a part of it when we watch the films, but I'm calling you out today. more than any other day to say, it's time for you to be the hero in your own journey. It's time for you to develop the courage, the conviction. When we look at all heroes in all films, and the word hero comes from the Greek word, heros, which means the protector. And most of us have spent most of our life climbing up this mountain, the mountain that everyone else was climbing up, the mountain of becoming someone, going to school, getting a good education, going to university, getting a good job, becoming someone of stature, of status. And then often we get to the top of that mountain, or we never get there, but we keep trying. But when we get there, we think there must be more to life than this. And that's when some of us decide to climb the second mountain. The mountain when we get better for others. We become the hero to protect others. But how many times in your life have you started something with good intentions? You felt good about it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to get fit. I'm going to get healthy. I'm going to start this job. I'm going to do this outside of what I'm currently doing. We start with good intentions. But you know what? Man has known about this since almost the dawn of man. In ancient Indian Sanskrit, there is a word that means hero in the beginning. Being a hero in the beginning and having the feeling of doing something is all well and good. But how do you keep that feeling alive? How do you get yourself to hold yourself accountable for what it is that you say you're going to do? And when we look at all of the heroes and all the films that we love, there is a common theme. Yes, they are the protector, but they are also practicing virtue. What does that mean? The virtues of courage, the virtues of justice, the virtues of practicing temperance, not giving in to willpower, and the virtue of wisdom. Is it not time for you to transcend your past? One of the most famous psychologists, humanistic psychologist, Abraham Maslow, talked about the psychology of human beings, the hierarchy of needs. And what he said is, man can be what he must be. Man can be what he must be. And most of us have put what we can be on hold. Too obsessed with looking at what everyone else is doing, That's why we love looking at Instagram stories, Facebook stories, because we are tapped into the story of other people's lives. But what about the story of your life? And closing that gap between where you are and where you want to go, so you become what you can become. And what Maslow talked about, he called that becoming self-actualized. You actualize your potential. And when you've reached your potential, you then transcend it. You go to another level, because there's always another level. And the way that I like to explain this to people is like this. The man who won the Nobel Prize in 1937 won it for his theory on something called syntropy. And all syntropy really means is that every living cell lives for one reason: to grow, to expand, to live fully. Everything that grows, that's what it wants to do. Whether it does it or not, well, that's a different question. You are here to grow, you are here to expand, you are here to evolve. But what we do is we get in our own way. And when we look at the good and the bad and the positive and the negative, we see it in films. We see the rise to riches. We see the challenge that the hero has to overcome the demons in his own head. See, the reality is we all have the same forces inside us. We have the force that wants us to stay where we are, and we have the force that wants to drive us forwards. It's which force wins. But when we see the people who really go forwards, it's because There is something in front of them that they must do. They are inspired to do something that is in front of them. Most of us know how to be motivated to move away from something in our past. But our biggest issue, our biggest challenge is when we get comfortable. And there is a disease going on right now in the world. It's a disease of people just like you and me who are comfortable, who don't feel like doing something. Maybe you've seen that film called WALL-E, where human beings have completely messed the earth up. And there's one robot that's left on Earth just doing what he was doing before. And this robot gets rescued by another robot. And they fly off into space and they go into a spaceship where all human beings are. The human beings that destroyed Earth that are now on this spaceship, sitting down, they've forgotten how to use their legs. All they're doing is looking at a screen, drinking sugary drinks, eating junk food, and totally engaged in consuming. They are consumers, they are not producers. And it takes WALL-E, the robot, to wake these people up, to remind them of what they're truly capable of doing. Not just being able to walk, but being able to make things happen. We have a capacity to make things happen. We have a capacity to do great things, but we are our own worst enemy. You have a voice in your head that is giving you a narrative. It's the inner voice, the voice that says, stay where you are. It's the voice that wants you to be who you were in the past. It tries to defend you, to keep you in your past, because that is where you've been. That is where you're comfortable. And there is a part of your brain that thinks this is who you need to be in the future. And for many of us, we've given that part of us such great attention that it's so noisy that we fail to hear the other part of us. Because there's at least two sides to everything. Have you ever seen Star Wars? In 1977, I watched that film and I sat in the cinema with my mouth wide open. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. To see the force that existed in this person, Luke Skywalker. And which force was he going to tap into? The dark side or the side of the Jedi? The force of good or the force of evil? We resonate with these films. That's why we watch them. They're talking to us. You have that part of you that will take you away from where it is that you could go. Because maybe now you don't exactly know where you want to go. But I'm sure you want to go away from where you are to something better. Something better than this. So that force, that negative voice that you have, I have, we all have it. It's always going to be there. But the opposing force is the force that we only ever really get to see when. When do we get to see the best in you? When does the world get to see the best in who you are and what you're about? In most cases, that happens in a crisis. That happens with a prognosis. That happens when something happens that we didn't expect to happen. And then all of a sudden, something rises up inside of us that we don't normally see. But as soon as we get comfortable, that part of us goes to sleep. It's the genius within you. And if you were to ask people, do you think of yourself as a genius? Most people will say, no, I'm not a Leonardo da Vinci. I'm not a Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm not a Mozart. I'm not a Roger Federer. But if you look at what that word means, the etymology of the word genius, it doesn't mean someone who is intelligent and who knows a lot. The real meaning, the origin of the word genius came from the Romans. And it means the inner guiding voice that is inside you, that will guide you forwards in your life. They got the idea from the Greeks. The Greeks called it the daimon, the inner spirit, the part of you that wants you to move forwards, the part of you that wants to be called out to the adventure, the part of you that wants the challenge, wants the adversity so you can come through the other side having achieved something. It's time for you and all of us all over the world to get in touch with the genius of our life. Look, you are the writer. You are the director. You are the producer. And yes, you are the actor in your own life. And you can choose your supporting cast. The question is, what type of movie do you want to create today? And as you look back over your life, what type of movies have you been in? Horror films, love films? For most people, they've been in a drama, like a soap opera. Nothing ever really happens. They focus on what's wrong, on what's missing, and then they wonder why history keeps repeating itself. For me, as a child, the films I was most obsessed with were zombie films. I don't even know why, what it was about these films, just seeing the concept of when heaven and earth, heaven and hell were full, the dead would walk the earth, and seeing these flesh-eating people. I remember watching that and thinking, imagine if that would actually happen. Now, I don't know whether that will ever happen, but when I look around the world, I see so many people that are acting like zombies. They're asleep. They haven't woken up to their potentiality. They are very passive. And the world is calling all of us right now to be active in what is going on in the world, to take ownership, to take responsibility. And the word crisis, the Japanese word crisis, has two meanings. It means danger, and it also means opportunity. We find ourselves in a crisis today, and really how you look at this is going to shape your destiny. What is going to unfold over the next few weeks and months, I would imagine it's going to be extremely challenging for many of us. But if you believe that your future is unwritten and you have the power to change and you can identify with the person that you're becoming, your identity means your being. If you could be the person that you identified with becoming, if you could see a better version of yourself, stronger, more healthier, being better with your friends, your family, being more successful, being more productive in your work, in your service. If every single day you could connect to that version of yourself, what do you think would happen? You bring that version of you to life. So I'm asking you to become the writer, the director, the producer, and the actor, and to act out the person that you're becoming, to act out the character. In fact, the word character comes from the word to chisel away at the person that you're becoming. No one is asking you to go out and give an Oscar-winning performance tomorrow. You have to start playing the part. And when you listen to actors like Keira Knightley, when she says that when she plays a role, she wants to play a role that is difficult, that even in her mind, she doesn't know if she can do it, but she wants to give it the best chance that she can. Ben Stiller talks about when you become a character, even if that character is silly and far-fetched, you still want to feel that character. You still want to have that character grounded in some sort of reality that you're creating. It was Einstein that said, reality doesn't exist in the outside world. Reality exists in here, and we create our own reality. So are you ready to go on to the next chapter of your life? Are you ready to think about the person that you're becoming? Are you prepared to begin with the end in mind? And as you go on this epic adventure, you know you're going to face adversity. You know you're going to face the biggest challenge of all, which is you don't feel like it. We've created a world where so many people right now don't have to do anything, but deep down they're unhappy. Why? Because they know they're not being who they're capable of becoming. Are you prepared to find out the unknowable? The unknowable of just how capable you are, or will you be one of the 98% of people who don't have a burning desire? It's estimated that 2%, when Napoleon Hill spent 25 years of his life writing the book Think and Grow Rich, he spent 25 years interviewing 500 of the most successful people on earth, from Alexander Graham Bell to Thomas Edison to Henry Ford to the people that started major corporations around the world. And with his curiosity, he knew that success always leaves clues. So he'd speak to these people to find out what was their secret sauce, what was the recipe of their success. And without doubt, the number one feature that these people had was a burning desire. A burning desire to do something that was in front of them. Many people have heard of the story of Thomas Edison, who didn't actually invent the light bulb. Other people had invented it, but they hadn't found a way to make the filament keep burning for an extended period of time. He became obsessed with it. He could see the result that he wanted, and he went after it. And he famously said, "I failed my way to success." He was prepared to fall down and get back up again. He was prepared to make mistakes at things until he became the inventor that he was. And the same is for all of us. We are all inventing. We are all creating. The 2% of people who have the burning desire in the world have 100% success. So, as I ask you right now, what's an idea that you could have? An idea of something that you want to create? An idea of something where you want to take the lead in your life? Leadership is the most valuable commodity in the world today. When we look around and we see so many countries, so many places not in a particularly good place because of the decisions that leaders made, you are the leader in your life. You're leading yourself to listen to what I'm saying here to you right now. You will lead yourself tomorrow to get out of bed. Every single day, you're leading yourself with the decisions that you're making. And where are those decisions going? You can have a burning desire. You can come up with an idea. We have the ability to come up with incredible ideas. And everything that you see that's ever been invented has been invented twice. Once in the idea, and then once in reality. Are you prepared to take the time to put pen to paper and write the story that you're going after? To write the story of the hero that you're going to become? Are you prepared to produce that? See, producing it means that it's something you're doing every day. The word produce means to bring forth. Are you prepared to be directed, whether that's by a coach or with a friend, or even direct yourself to let your genius come to the party of life? Are you prepared to choose your supporting cast? It was Jim Rohn that said you are the sum of the 5 people that you spend most of your time with. And when we look at the most popular hero films in the world today, they're films where the heroes come together. Because when people collaborate, their power when they come together, they become far more powerful than they are on their own. The fact is, human beings do not do very well on their own. We can survive on our own, but we never thrive on our own. We thrive when we allow ourselves to be supported by others. And when we thrive, is because we have something to hold on to. We have something that we're grasping onto. Something that we're going to do no matter what. What keeps me going is my vision. My vision of a global revolution of 10 million liberated people who have gone from living a life of chance to an extraordinary life by design. This really is your opportunity to show yourself what you're made of, to show yourself that you are capable of closing the gap between who you are and who you're capable of becoming. It was actually Jesus that said, if you bring forth what is inside you, you will be saved. If you don't bring forth what is inside you, it will destroy you. It was Martin Luther King that said the most important and pressing question any human being can ask of anyone is, what can I do for you? I want to turn that on its head and ask you, what can you do for others that would make a difference to the world? This is your life. This is your story. You are in the movie making business. A great life, it doesn't happen by chance. It happens by design. And this is your time, your moment to rethink, to reevaluate, to reposition yourself and decide to be the hero, not just in the beginning, but for the rest of your life. I want to thank you for taking the time to let me talk to you for 44 minutes. And just maybe you felt where I'm coming from and what I'm asking of you. Because what I'm asking of every single one of you that's watching this now and will watch it in the future is to understand that overcoming your past, it's not always easy. And some of us maybe really need to talk about what's happened in our past, especially if it keeps coming up. But when you truly find the great people out there, they're obsessed to do something. And I know that history is telling us that what we're experiencing now is going to be a lot tougher. But if you have something to believe in, something to work towards, you'll find moving through the challenges that we are all going to face a lot easier. Now, you're probably wondering, best way to see the hero's journey is Star Wars. So let me just tell you a little bit about what was going on and why I'm doing this. Anyway, first of all, as Carl knows, and some of you know because I talk about him a lot, it's a guy called Joseph Campbell. And Joseph Campbell was the mentor of George Lucas. George Lucas was the creator of Star Wars. And I've always been interested. When I first found out about the hero's journey, I became obsessed with it. And then I created the leader's journey with my colleague Kate Carruth, who I think might be watching. And that's the book that we wrote, which is, where is it? Somewhere. Inspirators, which you can all get for free. Just go to book.petecohen.com. If you really want to be a hero, this book will help you, because this isn't make-believe, even though we talk about lots of different films and The Matrix. In the film The Matrix, the character Neo is offered 2 pills. He's offered 2 pills by his mentor, who says to him, look, you can take this pill and stay where you are. Or you can take this pill and step into your true potential. Now, of course, if he took the one to stay where he was, no one would have watched the film. It just would have been boring. He stepped into his potential. He stepped into the challenge. That is why we like films. And the leader's journey, this is my big thing. This is like working with people like you who want to do something heroic, and let's work together. I've had the fortune of working with world and Olympic champions in sport, high-flying business executives, and people just like you, people who have developed the courage, not just the courage to do something incredible, like run into a fire and save a child, which is incredibly courageous. I'm talking about the courage for you to do something that is difficult for you, for you to face something that is a fear just to you and to nobody else, and to show yourself what you're truly capable of. But you might need a bit of help. That's why I've created environments and communities for people to grow and express themselves. And if you go to book.petecohen.com, you can download this book. You can have access to a whole load of material that we put together. You can go through my goal setting assessment. You can get on the phone with me and I can talk about you becoming the hero that you want to follow. Does anyone have any questions? I really appreciate you guys being here this evening. Now, one of the reasons I did this was I was approached by a YouTube channel called Motiversity, and we had a track come out a couple of months ago that's now had over 100,000 views. And the people that run it, I was talking to them about doing something around making a movie of your life. So Joel said to me, well, just record it, do it as a live. So what I just said here, who knows? It could become part of a track that people listen to all over the world. And if that is the case, I want to thank you because you were a part of it. Carl, you will get a signed copy, my friend. Just send me a message because someone just said, are you going live this evening? I am, but in my own private Facebook group. Let me see. Let me see if you guys have got any questions. I can see it on the screen here, but it's easier for me. What was your biggest takeaway? Please take the time, because what I'm asking all of you to do, and I know I work a lot closer with some of you than the rest of you, those who are a part of my coaching program. But for all of you, I'd love to know, what was your biggest takeaway from everything I just said here? Because I promise you, tomorrow or the next day, today, I must admit, I found it quite hard today. I went out today, it was extremely flat outside in terms of in town. You know, the country has been hit hard, really hard. Things are crumbling, but we still have the power inside us to rise above it. And when we think things are going to be bad or difficult, we still have more. There's always something left in the basement. Human beings are far more capable than we think we are. And that's always been my thing, to help people towards greatness. I'm looking for people who know that there's still something there that they want to do, something they want to give, something they want to become, something they want to achieve. And they know that they probably won't do it on their own. They know that they need some help. What if you don't know what you can become? Mark, that's a great question. So Mark, what I'd say to you is go through my goal setting assessment. Either go and get the book and then we ask you to do the goal setting assessment, or just go to discover.petecohen.com. Go through that, and then on the back of it, you can get access to my calendar and you can make an appointment to speak to me. See, that's the sort of question, Mark, that makes me go, let's talk. Do it even when you don't feel like it. Thank you, Georgina. I think that's a massive thing for human beings. Because we want to feel something, but most of us don't realize how you feel about something. If you want it enough, how you feel doesn't matter, right? Think about it. You know, when my wife was given 18 months to live, do you think I didn't feel like doing the things that I needed to do to find a cure for her cancer? No, of course I didn't. That didn't come into the equation. How I felt didn't matter. It's just that most of us today are obsessed with how we feel, and we allow our feelings to run the show. But our feelings, if you think about it, the language of our mind is our thoughts. We think in thoughts. That's the language of our mind. The language of our body is feelings. And once upon a time, your mind was the master. Your body was the servant. You didn't know how to walk. You had no idea. But your brain taught your body how to walk. What's happened for us as we've gotten older is our bodies have become the masters. We have a thought like, I don't feel like doing something. That thought goes into our body. Our body produces the feeling that is associated with that thought. And the feeling stops us from moving forwards because we feel we can't be bothered. If we think like, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, it won't work, we produce the feeling that is associated with that. The hero on the hero's journey that you're on needs to learn how to think greater than we feel, especially as on average we have anything between 40,000, 50,000, 60,000, 70,000 thoughts in one day. And so many of those thoughts produce feelings. If we can learn to think greater than we feel, we can unlock our truest potential. The world is calling you like never before, and I'm calling you out. I'm saying, come on, this is a time where we need to go back to school. We need to get in training mentally, physically, emotionally. We have to be like Luke in Star Wars. We have to be who we're capable of being, because when we're not, there's a part of us that knows we're not. Any more questions? Let's have a look here at your comments. Do it when you don't feel like it. What if you don't know what? Mark, so hopefully you'll take some action on the back of that. I'm not joking around, Mark. I'm looking for people just like you. Anybody else? I really appreciate you guys sticking around. One of the things I'm going to be doing in this group is some live coaching sessions. If you don't mind being coached when other people are watching, I'm all up for doing that. I'm all up for having conversations with some of the people I know who I feel have got some really powerful things to share. I'm upping my game. That's why every day I'm broadcasting at 7 a.m. to the public. I'll be doing that tomorrow. I really, really, really want to thank you. Ordered my book off the website. Thank you very much, Carl. I'll sign that for you tomorrow. And Carl, who knows all about trauma, he's someone who specializes in working with people who have suffered trauma. And why people need people like Mark is because they're often stuck in trauma. They haven't moved on to the post-traumatic growth phase. Two people could face the same situation in life, and one of them have post-traumatic stress that they never get over. Someone has the same experience and they find a way to grow from it. But often we just need help from other people. The only reason you're here today is because someone helped. Someone made your life happen. Any other questions before we go? Like I said, I'll be doing more sessions in this group, and I can't thank you guys for being here enough. I'm going to finish up with a couple of things here, right? Look, you've all seen one of these, a clapperboard. In fact, you want to take a picture of that, feel free to take a picture of it and post that somewhere and tell people what you've been doing. You've been looking at making a film of your life. Maybe you want to take a screenshot of that. You don't have to. You can do anything you want because it's your life. Look, it's your life. Your life matters. And maybe you need some coaching. Maybe you need some help. Everybody does. Look, who remembers these? See, I love these. And my good friend Kate, who I think is watching, she gave me this. I remember as a child watching these. You see, the most amazing thing about these is you see things in 3D. Such a simple thing. And this is what we all need to do. See our life in color. And that takes time and that takes practice. Thank you so much for being here, guys. I genuinely, really, really, really appreciate it. Just see if we've got any more questions. That's it, guys. Happy, beautiful evening. See you in the morning, 7 a.m. Take some time to think about what your biggest takeaway has been from all of this that I've shared with you. And let's get started in writing, directing, producing, and acting out those lives. And maybe there are some people in here that will also help you act those parts as well. So thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. See you in the morning.